This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The Iraqi police said that 18 people were killed in 2 explosions that went off today in the Iraqi capital Baghdad, including 13 employees of the Commerce Department. Meanwhile, 1 person was killed and 5 others were wounded in an explosion that targeted a police car in eastern Baghdad.
On the political level, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki said that if the security pact with Washington is rejected, then it will not be in the interest of Iraq.
شهدت العاصمة العراقية بغداد تصاعدا في عمليات العنف.
The Iraqi capital Baghdad witnessed an escalation of violence after a past period of relative calm in Iraqi cities. The green zone in the center of Baghdad, which includes the Iraqi government headquarters and the parliament, as well as the US and British embassies, came under suicide attack that was carried out by a woman at one of the entrances. According to the US Army, many Iraqis were killed and wounded, including 2 Iraqi army soldiers. Not far from the green zone, many employees of the Ministry of Commerce were killed and wounded in the explosion of an explosive device that targeted a bus which transports employees of the new Baghdad area in the eastern part of the capital. These violent incidents come as debate rages on between members of the Iraqi parliament about whether to approve the security pact between Baghdad and Washington. The latest of these developments came from the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, who said that there would be an immediate withdrawal of US forces from Iraq if Parliament does not pass the security pact on Wednesday without extending their mandate to stay.
The continuation of the current situation and the extension of the presence of international forces on Iraqi land will not be an alternative if the agreement is not approved. The alternative, if there's no request for extension, is the immediate withdrawal from Iraqi land, although this may not be in our current interest.
Maliki's position is aligned with the position of the US Army, which it previously announced, saying it would withdraw its forces from Iraqi cities and centralize them inside its fortified military bases if Iraq decides not to approve the pact. These positions and statements indicate that the US and Iraqi sides are pressuring the leaders of opposition political blocs in the Iraqi parliament to pass the security pact.
ومعنا من بغداد كمال الساعد عضو مجلس النواب العراقي عن الائتلاف الموحد.
With us from Baghdad, Kamal al-Saad, a member of the Iraqi Parliament and the United Alliance. Mr. Kamal, the escalation in violence comes close to the date for the passing of the pact in the Iraqi Parliament. Do you think that the 2 situations are linked?
In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, whenever we take an important strategic political step that affects the future of Iraq, the criminal forces carry out these operations, which only impact civilians and innocent people. This is the behavior that we have seen from these forces.
So
there is a direct relationship between the 2. Regarding the approval of this pact, there are some fears. Today, Maliki's statement actually is kind of risky and sort of a threat. We understand it to mean either approve the security pact or there will be chaos in Iraq. What does this mean and how do you explain this?
I don't think that Mr. Maliki meant either the pact or chaos. The Iraqi government in 2007 extended the presence of U.S. forces and stated that this would be the last extension of these forces and presented this case to the Iraqi parliament. We will move forward on this step. This year is the last year of extension. Thus, I think that Maliki's position aligns with the decision of the previous government and the parliament's support of this step. Welcome from wherever you are watching. This is the detailed news broadcast from Al Arabiya. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that the Central Committee of the Palestinian Liberation Organization is fulfilling its duty in protecting its legitimacy from those who want to topple the government. This came during his speech to the public on the occasion of his election as president of the Palestinian state.
The Palestinian Liberation Organization's Central Committee continues to carry out its duties today so as to protect the legitimacy which those in Gaza want to topple, split and tear apart the government. They no longer want to provide the Palestinian people with one common agenda from which to address the whole world. We say to those near and far, to our friends and enemies, that our rights are the same. These rights are based on Palestinian legitimacy expressed in the Declaration of Independence and Arab legitimacy as expressed in the Arab Peace Initiative.
Hamas criticized the election of PLO President Mahmoud Abbas by the PLO's Central Committee as president of Palestine. Hamas considered this an attempt to bypass the elections and a political ploy.
The position of Palestinian president is no longer vacant, as it had been for 4 years with the passing of the late Palestinian president Yasser Arafat. Meetings of the PLO's Central Committee rendered 2 surprises. The first was the suggestion of the Palestinian president to let the people choose via presidential and legislative elections in the case that dialogue fails. The second was the Central Committee's election of the president of the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, as president of the State of Palestine.
The Palestinian president is elected by the National Palestinian Committee. The committee has not convened for a long time, but it is replaced by the Central Committee. The Central Committee decided to take on the duties of the National Committee and elect the PLO president as the president of the State of Palestine, to replace the late martyr, President Yasser Arafat.
According to Fatah, holding early elections is the middle ground solution, thus putting Fatah's presidency and the Hamas-dominated legislature to the test of the people. According to Hamas, and based on its interpretation of the Palestinian Constitution, this decision is an attempt to go around the presidential elections approaching in 2 months.
We have to differentiate between the 2 decisions. The announcement of Abu Mazen as president of Palestine is a decision that needs to be directed at the Israeli occupation. It should come within a strategy aimed at announcing the rise of the State of Palestine, in the legal sense, so as to confirm the rights of the Palestinian people. As for the other decision involving the internal conflict over the presidential and legislative elections, I think that the president should have taken this step 2 months ago to clarify his position and desire for presidential and legislative elections. This is to fill the gap resulting from the legislative gap, which is the cause of contention between Hamas and Fatah.
The Central Committee's second day of meetings might not bring any surprises, and any decision taken is unlikely to steal the limelight from the decisions of the first day. The call for elections is an invitation to the Palestinian people to speak their mind about their future. The upcoming challenge for the 2 movements of Fatah and Hamas is to convince the Palestinian people to go to the polling stations. From the headquarters of the Palestinian government in Ramallah, this is Khaled Al-Qassam, Al Arabiya.
The economic picture here at home in Israel is increasingly reflecting the global tsunami. 15,000 Israelis lost their jobs last month. Other figures regarding the weakening economy are equally grim, as IBA's Eli Wargalanter reports.
Figures released today by the National Employment Service show that the number of unemployed in October was up 1.2% and now stands at 193,000. Moreover, more than 15% of the workforce has been laid off over the last month. Other economic news also gave pause for concern. The gross national product in the 3rd quarter was up only 2.3%, reflecting a serious slowdown since the beginning of the year. Exports were down by 13% in the 3rd quarter, and imports were down by 7%. The latest surveys show the majority of the country's citizens are concerned for their economic future. 61% of Israelis aged 25 to 54 say they will not be able to save money in the future, as opposed to only 47% in 2007. And 57% of the respondents said they were concerned or very concerned regarding the possibility of not being able to age with dignity. Polls also indicate that the number of citizens who rate their job security as being mediocre or less increased by 4% in 2008 and stands at 41% now. One interesting twist to the economic tsunami: Israeli consulates in North America are reporting a surge of Israelis asking for help getting back to Israel. Dozens of Israelis who have lost their money in the U.S. financial crisis have reportedly been pleading with the Israeli bureaus to help them pay for a plane ticket back to Israel. The Absorption Ministry says that some 15,000 Israelis could be coming home by the end of 2009. The Absorption Ministry and the Foreign Affairs Ministry are mulling a possible airfare aid fund to help Israelis come back to Israel. Eli Wogelanter, IBA News.
Now to occupy Jerusalem, to entertain a dream in Jerusalem, the capital of the long-desired state, a dream which is not yet realized. Next year, Jerusalem will be the capital of the Arab culture after taking the flag from Damascus. This is overseen by the Arab League and requires efforts, means, and finances. However, it also requires much more in order to challenge Jerusalem's status quo of occupation. From Jerusalem, Shuruq Asad.
Jerusalem is the Arab cultural capital for 2009.
Jerusalem is the center of spirituality, religion, and culture for all Arabs. Jerusalem is also the capital for Palestinians. Jerusalem is the heart of every national Palestinian project. Thus, this project will reiterate all of this.
It is a clear message that there are a people in the city of Jerusalem, Jerusalemites, Palestinians who reside in the city and defend Jerusalem in a way to show its history, civilization, and cultural identity. It is a challenge to the occupation authorities that are there.
The preparations are ongoing. There are many budgets, activities, and the restoration of old buildings to hold cultural, musical, theatrical, and other celebrations at a time when the infrastructure in Jerusalem has remained neglected ever since its occupation in 1967.
The opening will be at the beginning of the year in January. After taking over the position of cultural capital from Damascus, there will be an official and public opening in Palestine and abroad.
The most pressing concern is how they will be able to overcome the obstacles on the ground. Jerusalem, which fills the hearts of millions, is occupied.
Under Israeli occupation, for example, they arrested me when we wanted to just launch our logo in March.
There are major attempts to suppress the cultural identity of Jerusalem. There are attempts to ban cultural activities in the city of Jerusalem. There is a wall being built around the city.
Some in the preparatory committee are taking alternative steps, for example, by holding the opening celebrations far from the city in Bethlehem if Israel bans it from taking place in Jerusalem. Other Jerusalemites oppose these alternatives. They view this project as an attempt to promulgate an idea that was originally made to challenge the current reality and not to create alternatives to it.
Amidst staggering Palestinian dialogue, the cooling-off period between the Palestinians and Israel seems to be heading in the right direction. This news comes after Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front, and the Democratic Front have all accepted an Egyptian-sponsored Israeli proposal. According to the Israeli proposal, Israel will reopen all border crossings in the Gaza Strip in exchange for a sustainable cooling-off period with Palestinian factions. This agreement comes as half of Gaza's total population of 2.5 million continues to live on the verge of an unprecedented humanitarian disaster due to the Israeli blockade.
As the cooling-off period between Israel and the Palestinian factions nears its end, the Israeli side made a proposal. Through Egyptian mediators, Israel called for an end to the launching of cross-border rockets by the Palestinian resistance in exchange for the reopening of all Gaza border crossings. Meanwhile, Hamas announced that it has held meetings with the rest of the Palestinian factions to study the Israeli proposal.
We have consulted with the Palestinian factions regarding this issue. The Palestinians unanimously accepted to uphold the cooling-off period, provided that the occupation abides by all articles thereto. The Palestinian factions will continue to honor this cooling-off period, which is set to expire on December 19, 2008. The ball is now in Israel's court. Israel must stop its criminal and aggressive campaign.
Palestinian factions said that the success of the cooling-off period depends on the level of Israeli commitment to all articles and conditions agreed upon. This includes ending the Israeli aggression, lifting the blockade of Gaza, and reopening Palestinian border crossings. The Palestinian factions further said that they will continue to abide by the cooling-off period, provided that Israel continues to honor it as well. In addition, they said this was not a new agreement, but rather confirmation of a new Palestinian commitment to the cooling-off period.
If the occupation stops its aggression against the Palestinian people and the Gaza Strip, we as the Islamic Jihad will abide by the cooling-off period. Having said that, we're committed to the agreement as long as Israel is. The cooling-off period will expire in less than a month, during which the occupation must remain committed and refrain from carrying out any aggression against the Gaza Strip and must reopen all border crossings. We as the Islamic Jihad will continue to honor the agreement as long as Israel continues to do so.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian public confirmed that Israel, through extending the cooling-off period, is seeking to impose a new political equation, meaning a unilateral ceasefire. Israel wants to impose a unilateral ceasefire while leaving its hands free to commit crimes against the Palestinian people. The Palestinian public said they don't want a cooling-off period without anything in return. They also demanded that the Egyptian side mount pressure on Israel to meet all articles of this agreement.
The launching of rockets must end. Life must return to normal for the Palestinians. However, Israel must honor all of the promises it has made to the Egyptian side. Israel must end the raids, the incursions, and the killings.
The agreement to sustain the cooling-off period comes at a time when the residents of the Gaza Strip live on the verge of a humanitarian disaster. The Palestinian resistance confirmed that this agreement doesn't mean that they will not respond to breaches committed by Israel. They further confirmed that their commitment during the cooling-off period is linked to Israel's commitment.
A historic court verdict saves Egyptian gas from going to Israel. The following is an investigative report with my colleague Muna Ashmawi.
An Egyptian administrative court decided to stop the exportation of gas to Israel based on a lawsuit by former Egyptian ambassador Ibrahim Lutfi and a number of human rights organizations, as well as members from the Kefaya movement against the Prime Minister's office and the oil minister.
هذا الحكم يعتبر تاريخي لأنه يعني يعتبره البعض أهم حكم صدر منذ.
This court verdict is historic. Some believe that this verdict is the most important one since 1941. This wasn't hard to accomplish. I brought the Egyptian constitution and explained to the court that what was going on undermines the authority of the president and infringes on the legitimate authority. Also, the agreement harms the national interests of the country. First of all, the agreement will last for 15 or 20 years. Gas is sold to Israel at very low prices, ranging from $1.25 to $1.75 per unit. The same unit of gas is sold for $9 on the market. Experts made their calculations and realized that Egypt loses $9.5 million every day, which benefits our cute friend, Israel.
Meanwhile, a government official said that the government will implement the administrative court's decision by stopping the exportation of gas to Israel. However, he said that the verdict is not final and that the government does not have to implement it, though he emphasized that the government should respect the Egyptian judiciary system.
الشعب المصري مستنفر جدا من تصدير الغاز لإسرائيل. ليه مستنفر؟
The Egyptian people are outraged by the exportation of gas to Israel. Why? Because the Camp David Agreement gives Israel priority. We're talking about the secret clauses of the Camp David Agreement, which gives Israel preferential treatment. But no agreement can last forever without being reconsidered. The preferential treatment that Israel receives entitles it to Egyptian gas at a very low price. This is taking place even as our people in Gaza and the West Bank are being treated badly. This is from a political point of view. But what about the Egyptian people who own Egypt's natural gas? No one can waste our national resources.
All of us do not want cooperation between our country and Israel in the way it is happening now. The Egyptians should implement the court decision which bans the exportation of gas to Israel.
أنا أرى استخدام مثل هذا السلاح أو مثل هذا المصدر للطاقة زي ما بيقولوا incentive
I think that Egyptian gas can be used as an incentive to persuade Israel to withdraw from Arab land occupied after 1967 so that a state for the Palestinians can be established on all of the West Bank. Let me repeat, on all of the West Bank and Gaza, with the safe corridor that links the two together.
وأكرر على كامل الضفة وغزة مع وجود ممر آمن يربطهما سويا.
I think that Egyptian natural gas can be used as an incentive to convince Israel to do so. I think this will be very good.
في هذا السبيل أعتقد أنه سيكون استخداما جيدا جدا.
رغم مطالبة العديد من أعضاء مجلس الشعب والخبراء.
Many parliament members and Egyptian experts demanded that the secret agreement between Israel and Egypt be reevaluated. This agreement forces Egypt to sell its natural gas to Israel at extremely low prices while knowing that Egypt's natural gas resources will not last for long. In fact, there might be no more natural gas in 15 years. However, such demands did not lead to anything except for this court sentence, but it might be appealed in the middle of next month. It is a historic sentence that calls for setting things straight. However, Egypt's gas continues to go to Israel under this agreement. Those who work to get this verdict know that it will be like a thorn in the back of the government until the court decision is appealed next month.
وإلى كسلا شرق السودان التي تعتبر واحدة من المدن.
Kasala province in eastern Sudan is a Sudanese tourist town visited by thousands of people a year. The city is distinguished for its location, nestled in Totil Mountain, which is more than 850 meters above the surrounding hilltops.
The city of Kasala represents a model of coexistence and a complementary relationship between the tribes of Hudanda, Reshaida, and the Halanga. These tribes spread in eastern Sudan near the border with Eritrea.
It's as if the rising sun speaks to everyone in the accent of the people of the land. Dabaywa, Atanena, Akobam, words that welcome visitors to Kasala in eastern Sudan. Sleeping between the Totil mountain range and its green Gawasha, the city is a miniature of a larger Sudan, with its many races and ethnicities.
Kasala province is known for being a melting pot, representing the splendor of the Sudanese people and their many tones.
3 population groups form the majority of the city's inhabitants, each with its unique characteristics. The men of the Hagandawa are distinguished by their thick hair, and they carry a long sword on their travels. As for the Reshaida, they are interested in trade, especially across the border with Eritrea. The Halanga, on the other hand, prefer staying in the city, where they work in agriculture.
The environment controls everything. The people of this area are intimately connected to the mountains and plants. There are also specific folkloric jobs.
It is impossible to speak about the city of Kasala without speaking about Totil Mountain. Kasala and the mountain have been friends since ancient times. They both belong to the same tribe of music and silence. This relationship goes back further than the time of writing, when mountains talked and people listened.
It's a tourist area. Foreign tourists come here, and so do newlyweds, and anyone who wants to relax and enjoy. They all come to this mountain.
Al-Jabana, or Arabic coffee, has a special place in Kasala. The city's inhabitants are known for drinking large amounts of coffee, with special rituals devoted to its consumption. They do not have a specific time to drink jabana. They light the fire to brew it whenever a few people gather, or when they are visited by a guest deserving special welcome. There is an historic connection between the Eastern Sudanese people and Arabic coffee, which they call jabana. Their coffee gatherings have special rituals, indicating the connection between the people's customs and their local environment. Faiz Al-Zaki, Nile Egypt's news channel, from the area of Totil Mountain in the city of Kasala, eastern Sudan.
Americans decisively voted for the first African American to be the 44th President of the United States. Muslim Americans overwhelmingly voted for Barack Obama. People in the Muslim world hope that he will bring real change to the American relations with the Muslim world. One of the main reasons for this hope is what Obama said when he was in Germany during the presidential campaign.
The walls between races and tribes, natives and immigrants, Christians and Muslims and Jews cannot stand. These now are the walls we must tear down. If we could win a battle of ideas against the communists, we can stand with the vast majority of Muslims who reject the extremism that leads to hate instead of hope.
Was this just campaign promises?
I think Barack Obama truly wants to reflect the same policies he used on the campaign trail once he's in office. But the world changes by the minute. It depends on how Iran's stance is with Israel. If we can somehow achieve long-lasting peace in the Middle East without the threat of Iran and its nuclear program, at the same time you've got the Israeli right wing, very nationalistic. They don't necessarily want peace. If we can bring all these factions together, as we've been trying for years and years, there's a good chance it might happen with Barack Obama. But all it takes are a couple of radicals, right-wing Israelis or radical people in the Gaza Strip or Palestinians, to unsnarl all of that.
Historically, the Democrats lean toward diplomatic approach to international conflict, while the Republicans lean toward military solutions, like what happened in Iraq.
I think the biggest policy change you're going to see are fewer hawks. We call them chicken hawks in America. People who have never served in the military like Dick Cheney, but they were always for some kind of military solution. It was the hawks in the Bush administration that kind of put the entire country on a different course that we now see was a mistake. I think Barack Obama and his team are going to be a little bit more cautious in marching forward with weapons. Instead, hopefully, they'll have flowers.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.